welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Furkan and today we're kicking off an exciting new series where we'll be diving into Android app development using Jetpack Compose. So in this series, what we'll be doing is that we'll create a complete industry level e-commerce app from scratch. I'll guide you through every step from setting up your project, integrating essential tools like Koin and Ktor, and implementing features like cart management, user authentication, and even CI/CD principles. So by the end of this video, you'll have a solid understanding of not only how to build a robust Android application, but also how to structure your code with clean architecture, making your app scalable and maintainable. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please hit the subscribe button and let's just get started. So here's the design that I selected for this project. We have this login and sign up screen, and then we have this user profile stuff. Then we have home, product listing, details of product, then how the search will look, and then cards, checkout, shipping addresses, and then success messages, and then we will have the orders. Since this whole application is supposed to be done through backend, and we'll be integrating some backend APIs for all this process, so for that purpose what I have selected is fake store API. Basically this is a really cool API for those who want to develop their client-side application without worrying about the backend implementation of it. And over here you can come over here to this fake API store.com/docs, and you'll see these products, detail about all these products, how to fetch the products, how to get a single product, if you want to limit, sort, if you want to get the categories, and then like each and everything regarding the products is available over here. Then everything regarding the cart is available here, and then everything regarding the user. So basically what we are saying is that you can see that we have this whole APIs available for making the e-commerce application. Only one thing over here that we don't have, and that is the order management. And for order management, what I'll do is that I'll try to set up some sort of mock system that will help us creating the order and then listing those orders as well. So yeah, that was a little bit about how and from where the backend, from which backend we will be accessing it. Other than that, since most of my video, or you can say all the videos that I have created tutorial on, I used Hilt for dependency injection and retrofit for backend APIs, right? But in this project, what I'm trying to do is to use another component that is available for dependency injection, and that is Koin. And with Koin, we'll also use Ktor as well for backend API calls, and we'll ignore the retrofit for this project. Okay. So yes, this is a little bit of information about what we are planning to do, and now it's getting quite boring, so let's just get to the code. So what I'll do is that as usual, what you can do is go to your Android Studio, create an empty compose activity, and then let's just name this application. What should we name it? Let's maybe shopper app. Let's call it shopper. Okay, so this is the app name that we have added, and then we'll finish it and let the Android Studio complete the building process. Okay, so basically the primary purpose of this video is to set up a base structure on which we will do the implementation, right? And when I say basic structure, I mean that integrate the core component that we will be using throughout the application. Okay, so basically in this project, I'll primarily focus on creating this project through clean architecture, and I have explained clean architecture in one of my video, but I'll try to explain it a little bit more in this video while structuring it. So basically for now, to start with, the clean architecture basically contains three core components that basically we use. The first one is the data component that is basically responsible for providing all kind of data. So if you have like backend implementation, so the server stuff is being done in the data section. If you have local storage, so room and that kind of stuff is done in the in the data part, right? Okay, so basically that this is a little bit of data, right? And so domain is basically responsible for the business logic of your app, like what kind of data you will require, what kind of data, how the data will be provided to the UI component and stuff like that. So everything regarding business logic, all the use cases, let's say like how many use cases you have, everything would reside there, right? And the third component is our UI component, your presentation component. Basically the presentation component is solely responsible for your UI and how the data will be shown to the user on the screen, like in our case in composables and screens like that. The benefit of basically using all these three is that basically for data, let's say you have one backend implement and you want to go to like switch to another backend. In that case, what you'll do is that you'll just go to your data section and change the implementation in your data. So none of the change will affect the domain or the UI. Everything will be same, right? And then if you want to like have different kind of UI components, let's say you have different platform, you have Android, iOS and stuff, and you want to use the common business logic and data for that, you can also use it. So basically the purpose of this making it clean architecture, and that also module based plus also using Ktor and Koin, is that basically we want to switch these two modules to like multi-platform. So let's say if in future we want to use it for KMM, we can just use the whole business logic and data and only implement the UI for multi-platform, and then we'll be able to use it. So the first thing that I'll do in this whole section is that we'll go over here into this app section, right? And then right click on this and go to the module settings. Okay, so this is when you come over here, you'll see that you have this app only over here, and then you need to click on this plus new module, and from there we'll select Android library and let's call it data. Okay, so this is data, and you click finish, you'll get data over here. The next step would be is to create a domain as well, and now you can see that I have created the domain as well, and now we have app, data and domain. Okay, and what I'll do is that I'll apply it so that it can build it, and once you do that, it will take a little bit time to structure all this, and then in this panel, in the left section panel, you'll see that you have app, then you have data section, and then you have domain section, right? And then also a Gradle file for each of them. So basically all the data related stuff would go to the data section, and the business logic will go to the domain section, and then the last thing would be to use it over here, right? Okay, so basically what we want to do is that we want these module to communicate like between each other, because without that it's not possible. We need to make these component communicate between each other. So the first thing is that I need to go to the Gradle file of the app, which is also presentation for us. You can do one more thing, and then maybe go to refactor and rename the module and call it presentation. Okay, so if I rename it, this app will be changed to presentation, and then it will be more easier for us to understand. So the first thing is go to the Gradle file, right? And then over here what we need to do is that we'll say implementation, and implementation will like mention the project and say data, right? This is for the data, and then the next thing would be to also mention the domain as well. So in this specific structure, what we will do is that we'll need domain and data, both of these over here, right? Then we basically go to the data section, right? And then we'll do the same, but this time we'll just need the domain, right? Domain. Okay, the reason for only domain is that we want only the structure of how the data should be presented, and so that we can do it, and then the rest of the stuff would be done by data. And then this domain doesn't require anything because this contains all the logic and nothing else. Okay, now this is the first thing that we have done. The next thing that we'll do is that we'll integrate Koin dependency as to this whole structure, because we want everything to be able like to be handled through dependency injection, and this time we are going to use Koin for that, right? So the first thing that I'll do is that I'll go to the you can choose either one, it doesn't matter, but let's just say we'll go to the data first and create a package and call it di. Okay, and we'll do the same for this domain section as well. We'll go to the package and call it a di, and then over here as well in the presentation, right, and I'll use the di as well. Okay, now the di is there, but we haven't like integrated any SDK for now. So the next thing that I'll do is that over here I'll come over here and then I'll add the dependencies for Koin. Okay, so what I'll do is that the first thing is I'll add this version for it, right, and then I will use these three dependencies. Okay, one is Koin core, one is Koin Android, and one is Koin Android Compose. These two will be used for our Android side of the implementation, and this Koin core this will be used on the other side, right? And since this specific section would be used for like required for all the three modules, so what I'll do is that I'll go to the domain section, implementation, right, and then implementation libs dot Koin dot core. Okay, now basically there's just one more thing that I would like to tell you guys, and that is that if I use this implementation like this, I'll only be able to access the Koin capabilities in the domain sections, right, like in the over here. So if I go over here and then create a Kotlin class, and let's call it going to be file and call it domain module. Okay, so I'll see wall domain module is equals to module, right, and then over here we'll add the domain, the modules that we require, but for now let's just call it this way, right? Now you can see that this Koin DSL is like accessible over here, but what if I want to do the same over here in this Kotlin class, and let's say I want to create a name and say this is going to be data module, right? And now let's say wall data module is equals to module, and now you can see that I'm not able to access this, although the data class contains domain, but we are not able to use it. So one way is to basically re-implement this thing in the data sections right over here, and it will fix it. One other way is to convert this to API. So basically what APIs does is that whichever whichever module have the dependency for domain, like in our case the data have the domain dependency, and also the presentation also have domain. So by API means that specific SDK will now be accessible in the data and also presentation as well. So now you can see then when I sync it, I'm able to access this, right? Pretty cool. Okay, now I'll do the same thing in the presentation as well. I'll create a Kotlin class, and now let's just call it presentation module. Okay, and now I'll call it wall module, sorry, presentation module, and then this is going to be module, and I'll import it. Okay, now once you do that, you have the module from all these components are prepared, and now what we will do is that we'll create an application class. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that I'll go to the new class, and I'll call it shopper app. Okay, and now let's just extend it from the on application, and now I'll call it on create. Okay, so I'll override the on create function, and over here what I'll do is that I'll say start Koin. Okay, and now when I go to module, I'll say list of, okay, and now it will go presentation module, and then it will be data module and domain module. So I'll just fetch all these. So basically what we do over here is that right over here we'll tell the Koin to get all the module through which the different objects will be created from presentation, data and domain, and create the start the Koin, right? Start the dependency injection management system. Now there is one more thing that I would like to do, as that is to add Android context, and you can see that I'm not able to do that. It's like not accepting it, and the reason for that it's not accepting is because we need to define Android related specific implementation or dependencies for Koin, and for that we'll do is that libs.coins.android, and then the next one is android.compose. So once you do these two dependency, it will let's sync it, and now again go back over here. Now you see that we'll be able to access this, and this is basically just for Android, so that the Android context can be accessible everywhere. Okay, so this is the basic structure, and now let's just try to sync it, or maybe build it and see if like everything is working. And the Koin integration is done over here. The next thing that we would do is that we'll now start creating some sort of backend related stuff. So we'll integrate Ktor to the app, and for that what I'm gonna do is that I'll go over here, and then I'll just add some dependencies that I have already prepared. So I'll just go over here, right, and over here I'll add these dependencies that you can see, that Ktor client, CI logging, negotiation and serialization of, right. And along with that I'll also need the Ktor dependency like version as well. So I'll add the version, and once I do that I'll sync it. Okay, now the sync is done. I'll go to the data Gradle file, right, and inside the data Gradle file I'll add these dependencies, right. This is basically the same dependency that I added into the section, and along with that I'll add a couple of more things as well. Enable a couple of more things. One thing would be to add this for plugin serialization. We need to enable serialization for this specific project as well, and specifically for this data module. And along with that there is just one more place where I'll place the dependency and plugin ID, and that is basically this shopper project level, right. So basically we'll come over here and then we'll add this. Okay, so basically everything is set up, and now let's just do some cool stuff, right. So I'll start integrating Ktor now, and now let's just create a new class, and let's just call it network module, right, and it's going to be a file. Okay, so over here what we'll do is that I'll say wall network module is equals to module, like I did for the other, and then what I'll do is that I'll call single, and inside the single we'll implement this. This is basically the default implementation for how the Ktor is integrated, right. So we'll use the Kotlin serialization for this, and then for logging we'll use this logger, or maybe you can just remove that and not use the logger at all. Okay, we just don't need that, and we'll just add these dependencies add this specific property to set if we want to log everything, we want to log a specific thing or something like that. Okay, so this is the first thing. Our network module is done, our Ktor implementation, so that this client that we want have been created, and we'll be using that client in different places. But yes, for now this is how it is. Second thing that we'll do is that in the data module over here, I'll create another package, and for DI I'll call it network, and I'll create it. So now you'll see that it's not being created. One reason for that is Android Studio somehow uh, don't like to create directly, like package right after we create it, and it doesn't show it in that Android mode, but you can get that file over here when you need to switch to this, right? Then if I go back again, you can see that it's not there. So go back to package project level, and then over here now let's just create a Kotlin class and call it network service. So basically this class will define the functionality of all the endpoint that we'll be using in this project. Okay, so now in this specific class there is just one more thing that we can do, is that you can get over here in the domain Java, and now over here create a new package and again call it network, right? And then in the network section, let's just call it new Kotlin class, right? And make it an interface, this one, right? Network service. So basically this is the function that I'll call, and let's say I'll call it something like this. I created this network, and then I created this result wrapper. We don't have a result wrapper class, so I'll just create a data class. Right, so I've just created a shield class as well for this, and again we need a product model for this section as well, because we don't have that. So what I'll do is that I'll create in the domain section, what I'll do is that I'll create model classes as well. So I'll create a package and call it models, right? And in the model I'll create a Kotlin class that is going to be a data class, and I'll call it product. Okay, and now in the product, what we'll do is that let's just use these things like ID, title, price, category, description. We'll update this, but for now let's just keep it this one. Okay, and now we'll import it, and this is pretty much what we have. Okay, so this is done. We have used a suspend function for get functionality, and now this network service that we created in the data module will basically make it an implementation of that. So I'll just refactor it and rename to Impl. Okay, and now with Impl I'll say to extend it as a network service as well, and now the network service is supposed to be getting that. So over here what I'll do is that I'll create suspend function, or maybe you can call it inline function, if I t comma r, right, and we'll say make web request, right, and then this will contain a URL, a method, body, any, like if there is any, we'll create a body, and then we'll create headers if there are any, we'll create parameters, also a map, and we also want a mapper for this, right? So I'll use that mapper as well. And now inside this specific functionality, what we'll do is that we'll implement the very generic stuff for that. Basically we need a client. Since we don't have that client, what I'll do is that I'll get the client like the HTTP client that we created through the dependency injection, if you remember in the network module. So I'll do that, and now it says that client is, maybe it's because of private it's accessing. Okay, yeah, we don't need to make it a private. Now I'll do it this way, and then I'll, the URL, it's not going to be this, it's going to be this dot parameters dot append all, and then we'll use the parameter for, not sure which parameter is it. Yeah, okay. And then again we'll use the headers for this. For this we need to define this as an internal API because it can change as they say. Then we'll implement the content type, and then for JSON we'll do the JSON serialization body as text. Why do we need that? I think we don't need this. Okay, and yes, we'll call it as a body. Okay, we'll call it body, and for body I'll use it as T. Okay, and now over here this response is going to be response and response, and I guess the content type is not okay. It's just added a Firebase one, which is not the one we need this one. Okay, and then these are some crashes, so basically it's just for proper error handling. So let's say if you have, I guess this is should be this one. Okay, so these are error handling. Let's say if you want different kind of error, 40 error, 200 error, and then like, sorry, not 200 error, 400 and 500 error codes. For that you'll do it, right? And then we need a HTTP method, not string. It's going to be HTTP method. And I guess once we do that, this specific functionality will be done. This is something that we will do just once. It's not something that we'll be doing again and again and again, but it's good that we create it. Okay, and now in this function what we'll do is that we'll just call it like this. Now the problem here is that it says that make web request is not returning anything, which is wrong. We need to return something from this, and that is basically going to be result wrapper, right? We need a result wrapper for this, and I guess that's what we want. And yeah, this is something. Okay, now this is pretty much what we needed. I'm not wrong. No, I guess we need to be this, and we'll return this. So when we return, it says that it's not expecting result wrapper dot success. It's also part of that, right? Okay, I guess what we'll do is that we'll result is equals to, do it this way, mapper dot invoke response L as this. Okay, and then we'll return like this. Yeah, so what we have done, like we just separate out and specifically mentioned that the result is supposed to be this, and then we added this to, so that it doesn't throw any error. And now this is done, and there is just one thing that I would like to emphasize on, and that is this mapper class, this mapper inline function, non-inline function. This is basically going to help us map into different models. So like we will have data models, then we'll have domain models, right now you can see we have this model over here, and then when I make a web call, this will fail because Ktor requires specific kind of models to be annotated with specific kind of keywords, so that Ktor can process it. But right now you see in the model it's something like that, and in the domain section, sorry. And also we cannot access the properties of Ktor in the domain because it is totally independent out of it. So we'll have to create different models for each type of module that we have. Like in our case, in data, we'll also create a model. And now let's just create a package and call it model. Okay, and inside the model we'll create a class, and I'll call it data product model. Okay, this is going to be the exact same copy of this specific class, but yes, with a little bit of changes that you can see that I have added. And now this will contain annotation of serializable. So you need to add this serializable annotation as well to the top of it, so that we can access it. And along with that, we'll create a function inside this class that will basically create us a mapping of the product. Okay, now this is done, and the next thing that we'll do over here in the network service, where is the network service? Yeah, over here. Like, this is the model that's coming from the domain, right? Yeah, over here, this is going to be data product model, right? And once that is received, we'll map it to it.toProduct. Okay, so basically the functionality of mapper is that, let's say you have a case where you want to process the received data from the backend into the data model that you have in the data module, right? But the actual form that you require, because in most cases you'll need the data in the domain models, because that is where all the logic is, right? So for that, what we'll do is that the mapper function will contain two different functionalities. One is, on one end, it will receive the type of data that the backend is supposed to send us, and to which will be basically the backend will map. And once that data is available, we'll map it to the domain model, which is the R in our case, right? So over here, what I did is that I passed the list data models to the mapper, right? And then over here, what I did is that I mapped all the objects to the domain model, so that it can return those, right? Over here, like, you can see that this result. And yes, this is how this thing will done. And now what we need to do is that we need to define this dependency in our network module, right? So like, you can see over here, where is the network module? We go to the DI, and then into the network module, you see we right now just have the single, right? Now what we'll do is that we'll create another single. And now what I'll do is that I'll mention this is to be a network service that is going to be coming from network service. And now what we'll do is that we'll say network service impl, and we'll give it a get, since it require a parameter, and that parameter is the client, so we'll mention it to be get. And this way, what we'll do is that all the logic will reside in the network service. So this abstraction, everything will be here as an abstraction, right? And for this, we'll have network service implementation. So now let's say this is this backend that you have is your own backend, and now you want to switch to a serverless system, or maybe you want to switch to Firebase, right? So what you'll do is that you'll have to create a Firebase implementation of this class, right? And then the rest, everything would be same. You don't have to change anything in the domain, you don't have to change anything in the UI. So it will be easy to maintain, like, just change into this specific section, and everything will remain same and won't require any kind of separate implementation to it. So this is how basically the domain and the data section differs, right? So now we got this network module set up like this. What next thing that we would like to do is that, now basically I have created this service, right? But I want to use this service. How do I use that service? So again, what I'll do is that I'll create a new package, sorry, and I'll call it repository. Okay, over here like this, and then I'll create the same repository in this section. So this will be the implementation section, and this will be the repository section. And over here, what I'll do is that I'll create a Kotlin class and name it interface, and let's say I'll call it product repository. Okay, And now in the product repository, the first repository that I'll need is that I'll need a function get product and then list of product, right, along with the result wrapper as well. We need the result wrapper because we need the result for that. Okay, so I have created this function, right? But again, now this repository, we don't care from where, like the domain doesn't care from where the data is coming. That responsibility is of this data module. So in the data module, what I'll do is that I'll create an implementation of that interface that I created. And now if I go over here and I call it product repository impl, right, and this is going to be a class, and let's just extend it from the product repository that's come from domain. And now you'll see that basically this requires us to implement this. Okay, now again, this repository need our network service, right? So I'll call it network service like this, and then the network service dot get product will be done like this. And yes, I guess I missed that. This needs to be suspend as well because this is going to make a backend call, right? So I'll make it suspend over here as well. Okay, and maybe you can make it private as well so that it's not accessible outside this class. Okay, now this is the repository thing is done. And now in the DI section, what I'll do is that I'll create a new class because we'll create multiple kind of repositories. So I'll make it a separate file and I'll call it repository module. Okay, and let's call it repository module is equals to module, right? And now what I'll do is that I'll create a single and now we'll call it the proposed, right? But we need to specifically mention that this is basically coming for the domain side. So the domain side implementation for that is the single, so product repository, right? So that basically whenever we try to fetch, like create an object for this will be created. Okay, so now repository module and network module, we have these two modules and we need to add them over here. So what we'll do is that we'll say includes, and now we'll say in network module, and along with that we'll create repository module. Now this will basically, when the app runs, these modules will be created. Okay, this is done from this side. Our basically repositories done, repositories setup. The next step that I would like to do here is to go to domain, and now over here in the DI, or before DI, let's just say we'll create another package, and that package is going to be use case. Okay, this is basically where we'll define the logic, all the use cases. For example, we fetch the data, we delete a specific item, we like every single step that we'll do, every single action that we will do is will be created through the will be done through this. So but in this case what I'll say is that get product use case. Okay, and this is going to be a simple class, so I'll just create a class for this. And this use case class requires a repository, so I'll say to make it a repositories. Okay, now yes, let's just do it this way. Okay, so what we did is that basically we created a execute. Basically it's good to have a parent class that basically contains only the invoke function for that, so that each use case just call that. But in our case for now, let's just make it execute and we'll update it later on. Okay, so we have this use case dot execute thing, right? But again, this use case needs to be initialized and created. So for this I'll come back to this DI section, and over here I'll create a Kotlin class, and I'll call it use case module. Okay, now this is done. And then this is going to be wall use case module is equals to module, Okay, and now inside this what we'll do is that we'll create a factory and create a, what does it says, get product use case. Okay, so what we'll do is that we'll basically use factory for this, because we just want a single time to be created and then not like to be kept every time we access it. It will just, the factory will help us create this, right? So this use case module is again going to be added to this. So we'll create something like this over here. Okay, now the third part of this section is of this project is to basically make sure that whatever we implemented, whatever we integrated is actually working as well. So I'll get over here to this main section, and you can see I have like these plenty of things. I'll just get rid of those all, and let's say I'll just get rid of this as well. Okay, now one thing that I would like to do here to start with is to integrate the navigation, right? So what we'll do is that I'll add the dependencies for the navigation that I've kept somewhere over here. Okay, so I'll just get to this, go to Android side. This is pretty easy to find that. Okay, so over here we don't need this build tools. This dependency was added as a mistake, so let's just remove this. Okay, now we have this navigation compose, and then again what I'll do is that I'll use this over here, and let's just call it navigation. Okay, now this navigation is done. Let's just go to the data section, I guess, and get rid of this as well. It's basically just a wrong thing, maybe added as a mistake, and let's just wait for this to build. Okay, now it's done, and in the app level, we'll do is that we'll integrate this libs.compose.navigation. Okay, and we'll sync that, and now we'll get back to the home, right? And in the home, what we'll do is that we'll create a wall nav controller is equals to remember nav controller, right? And then we'll go for nav host that will contain a nav controller, and in the graph, let's call it home for now. Okay, not graph, or let's just need to start destination. Okay, and now we'll say composable, right? And over here we'll call it home screen. Since we don't have it for now, what I'll do is that I'll create a new composable over here. So I'll just go to this section and I'll say UI dot feature dot home. Okay, and now we'll go there and I'll create a Kotlin file with the name of home screen. Okay, and then well what I'll do is that I'll call it a composable function home screen like this, right? What it will do is that it will require a nav controller and a view model, but right now let's just say we don't have that. Okay, and we need to make it, yeah, we need to define the route for that. Okay, and now over here we'll pass this. Okay, so now we got the home screen, and now along with the home I'll also need a view model. So I'll create a home view model for that, and over here what we'll do is that from the domain we need the use case. So what I'll say is that private wall get product use case, and do it this way, right? And we will do a couple of more things, like we'll say that sealed class home screen UI events, right? And I'll call it load, and then we'll call it data class success. This will contain list of product, and let's just call it data. Okay, and the last one is going to be data class error. Okay, so I created these, maybe let's just call it data object. Okay, now these events are done, and now I'll create a function and I'll say get product, and now over here we'll say view model. Okay, we need to use view model from Android as well, and then we'll call it view model scope dot launch and something like this. Okay, and over here we'll do is that we'll create a mutable state flow for this, right? And the initial event is going to be the, okay, why is it navigation to, it should be loading. Okay, okay, so I'll use this loading over here, and then in this we'll see that if the result is this, and we'll call it, okay, okay, no, I guess that is going to be failure, and then else is not required. Okay, and now what we'll do is that we'll see result as data. We need to make it this result success dot value, and then that data will be passed like this. Okay, same goes for this. We need to get the error message out of it, like an exception message, else we'll say an error occurred, and we'll use the result like this. Okay, oh, not result, error. Let's just use it this way. Now this is done. Okay, our get product stuff is done, and as soon as get product is done, what we'll do is that we'll call it UI state dot value to be loading. Okay, and now I'll make this specific state exposable to the UI component, and in the init I'll call get product. So as soon as the view model is created, we'll fetch the products, right? And then in the UI state, I'll go to the home screen and I'll create what we need to do. The first thing that I need to create is to create a view model, like home view model is equals to it's going to be Koin view model. Okay, this is basically will help us create the view model for it, and then what we'll do is that we'll call it UI state is equals to something like this. Okay, and for loading, what we'll do is that I'll call it circular progress indicator. For success screen, what we'll do is that we'll create data. Okay, and then we'll make a lazy column out of it, and we'll mark it as items and data product item. Right, for error, let's just use text. Since we'll basically create all the design and stuff for now, this is just for testing purpose. So what we'll do is that we'll make it this way, and we don't need this. We make to import it, we'll call it this one, right? The product item, we can create a composable for this. Again, composable function product item. Okay, and inside this, what we'll do is that we'll create a card. Okay, and inside the card we'll add, let's just add some modifier to this, like add a dp padding, import the compose UI, and then import the padding, and then import the dp, right? And now in the name, it's not the product dot name, it's going to be the title of the product, right? And also let's just use this. Okay, so what I've done is that we created a row and a spacer that have these two large, maybe title medium and then body medium is fine. Okay, so I guess that's a little bit of UI stuff that I created, and now we need to define the view model as well in the DI. Like you can see right now we don't have that, so I'll create a new Kotlin class, and now I'll call it I'll call it it's going to be file, and let's call it view model module. Okay, and again let's call it wall view model module is equals to module, and over here what we'll say that we'll call view model. Okay, that is going to be home view model with get. Okay, so once you do that, this will basically help us create the view model objects through Koin. And now what we need to do is that we need to include that view model into this section. Okay, I guess that's pretty much what we have done. It's like a lot of things that we have done, but yes, this is the basic structure that we want to create for this app that we are running. And yeah, I guess we need to run it on an emulator, so I'll just run it on a emulator. Okay, so it just started and then it just crashed right away, which means there is something wrong with our implementation. And now let's just see, Koin application has not been started. Okay, now I guess I found the issue, what we have, the mistake that we did. It says that the Koin application is not created and we are trying to access the Koin stuff, right? And you remember that we created this that basically says the start Koin, but I guess we've missed adding the application name into the manifest. Okay, so what you need to do is that we need to add this property name and then this shopper app. Okay, and now once we do that, we'll try again and see if this time it fixes the issue. Let's see, home, and now it's crashed again with hopefully another error. Yes, it says that there is some casting problem in this section where basically we are trying to UI state. That's why this is creating value. We need to define the value over here and value over here. So just remember that it will be also the value that will basically be compared rather than the state. And also there is just one more thing that I forgot to add, is to add a permission for internet as well. So just don't forget that as well. Okay, so once we add these two property and we run the application, we'll see again if there's anything left or if it works. And now you can see that it's loaded, and it just loaded a couple of list items, right? It's just not looking that good, and the reason is definitely because we just added a temporary implementation. But yes, this is how this is the basic structure that we have created, and it's working as expected. So in the next video, what we'll do is that we'll create the UI component and maybe start working on making it look better and start looking into how the design implementation for that specific thing is done. So this was it for today. I hope you liked the video. Please comment down below of what you think about this video, and if you have any suggestion, please feel free to comment. Like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. This is the first video of this long series that I have started. This is going to be at least 8 videos about this project. So in this video, what we'll do in this series, what we'll do is that we'll implement everything as on industry standards. We'll see how it goes as we move forward. So yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you in the next. Till then, have a great day. Bye.